Imagine a life where nothing disturbs your peace. Insults roll off you like raindrops on stone. Frustrations disappear before they take root. You walk through life calm, steady, and untouchable. This is not fantasy. This is discipline. This is training. Most of the frustration and anger we experience in life come from one fundamental mistake: trying to control things that are beyond our power. We want people to behave a certain way, for life to be fair, for events to unfold according to our desires, and when they don't, we feel betrayed, offended, or enraged. But the truth is, the world does not conform to our expectations, and other people are not obligated to act in ways that make us comfortable. The more we fight against reality, the more we suffer. Imagine standing on a beach, trying to command the waves to stop crashing against the shore. No matter how loudly you yell, no matter how frustrated you become, the waves continue. This is exactly how most people live their lives, constantly trying to control external forces that are simply beyond them. The wiser approach is not to resist the waves, but to learn how to navigate them. At the core of this wisdom is a simple distinction. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. Our time and energy should be spent only on the things that we can influence. What can we control? Our thoughts, our actions, our attitude, and our choices. What can we not control? The actions of others, the past, the weather, random misfortunes, and countless external events. The moment we accept this, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Consider an everyday example. Suppose you are driving to an important meeting, and suddenly traffic comes to a halt. You are stuck. You start to feel irritation rise in your chest. Why does this always happen to me? Why are people driving so badly today? But pause and ask yourself, is there anything you can do about the traffic? No. Your frustration changes nothing. The only thing within your control is your reaction. You can choose to sit there in anger, or you can accept the situation calmly and use the time productively. Listen to a podcast, reflect on your thoughts, or simply practice patience. The choice is always yours. The same principle applies to dealing with people. Imagine a rude customer service representative, or a colleague who takes credit for your work. Many people react instinctively. Anger flares, emotions take over, and they spend hours replaying the situation in their minds, feeling wronged. But what if, instead, you acknowledged that their behavior is outside your control? You cannot dictate how another person acts, only how you respond. If someone insults you, their words have no power unless you grant them power. If they lie about you, your reaction is what determines your peace, not their dishonesty. If you let go of the illusion that you can control others, you also let go of the frustration that comes with it. This approach is not about passivity or weakness. It does not mean tolerating injustice or never standing up for yourself. It simply means focusing your energy where it is most effective. Instead of wasting mental and emotional resources trying to change the uncontrollable, direct that energy toward things you can actually influence. Your skills, your discipline, your character. If someone mistreats you at work, instead of endlessly complaining, put your effort into improving yourself, exploring new opportunities, or setting firm boundaries. If a friend disappoints you, rather than brooding over their actions, decide what kind of relationship you want moving forward. A crucial part of this mindset is accepting that life will never be entirely in our favor. There will always be unexpected difficulties, unfair situations, and people who do not meet our expectations. By embracing this as an unchangeable fact, we rob these situations of their power to disturb us. Instead of reacting with anger or disappointment, we can respond with wisdom and composure. Think of a strong tree in a storm. The wind howls, the rain pours, but the tree does not resist. It bends, it adapts. And when the storm passes, it is still standing. We must learn to do the same. Life will throw difficulties our way, but instead of fighting against them uselessly, we can remain steady, knowing that we have control over one thing only: ourselves. Every moment you spend worrying about what others do, resenting the past, or getting angry at things beyond your power is a moment wasted. Instead, focus on what you can control. your response, your mindset, and your actions. In doing so, you will find a level of peace that no external force can take away. Emotions are not direct responses to events themselves, but rather to our interpretations of those events. What disturbs us is not what happens, but how we choose to see it. The same event can cause two different reactions in two different people, simply based on how they perceive it. This is proof that external events have no inherent power over us. Only our minds do. If we train ourselves to separate our emotions from external events, we gain the ability to remain calm, unshaken, and in control. Imagine you are walking down the street and a stranger insults you. Your immediate reaction might be anger or offense, but why? The insult itself is nothing more than sound waves traveling through the air. It has no real weight, no physical impact. The only reason it affects you is that your mind assigns meaning to it. You take the words personally, interpret them as an attack on your identity, and in doing so you create an emotional reaction. Now, consider an alternative response. What if you heard the insult, recognized it as just words, and let it pass without giving it any importance? The insult would lose all its power over you. This principle applies to almost every negative emotion we experience. If someone cuts you off in traffic, the event itself is neutral. It is simply a car moving into another lane. The frustration only arises when you perceive it as an intentional act of disrespect. But what if it wasn't? What if the other driver was simply distracted, in a hurry, or unaware? Even if they did it on purpose, why should their lack of courtesy disturb your peace? Your reaction changes nothing about the event itself. What it does change is your mental state. Many people allow themselves to be controlled by external events, reacting emotionally to every inconvenience, every rude comment, every unexpected challenge. They are like a leaf in the wind, tossed around by whatever happens around them. But a person who trains themselves to detach emotion from external events becomes like a mountain, steady, unshaken, unaffected by temporary storms. One way to develop this discipline is through conscious awareness. The next time you feel anger, frustration, or sadness arising, pause. Do not react immediately. Instead, ask yourself, what am I reacting to? Is this event truly harmful, or is it only my interpretation that makes it seem that way? Often you will find that the event itself is not the real cause of your emotions. Your perception of it is. By changing that perception, you take away the emotion's power. Another method is to practice neutrality. Try to see events as if you were an outsider, observing from a distance. If you were watching someone else experience the same situation, what advice would you give them? Most likely you would tell them not to take it personally, not to waste energy on things they cannot control, and to move on. Now apply that same wisdom to yourself. Some people might argue, but isn't it natural to feel emotions? Of course, emotions are a part of being human. The goal is not to eliminate them entirely, but to master them. Just as a skilled rider controls a horse rather than letting the horse run wildly, a wise person controls their emotions rather than letting emotions control them. You can acknowledge that an event has occurred without allowing it to dictate your inner peace. Think about history's greatest leaders, warriors, and philosophers. They did not waste their time being offended by every insult or frustrated by every inconvenience. They understood that emotional reactions are often a distraction from what truly matters. They remained focused, disciplined, and composed, no matter what challenges they faced. The modern world is filled with distractions and provocations, social media arguments, sensational news, personal conflicts, but you do not have to be a slave to every emotion that arises. You can choose to step back, analyze the situation logically, and respond in a way that aligns with wisdom rather than impulse. By detaching your emotions from external events, you free yourself from the control of the outside world. You become independent, unshaken, and truly powerful, not because you dominate others, but because you have mastered yourself. Mastery over emotions begins with mastery over the mind. Thoughts give birth to feelings. and feelings give birth to actions. If we wish to control our emotions and reactions, we must first take control of our thinking. This requires discipline, a conscious effort to train the mind to respond to life's challenges with reason rather than impulse. Without discipline, emotions will dictate our behavior, leading us into unnecessary conflicts, regrets, and suffering. Consider how most people react to difficulties. When something goes wrong, they immediately let their emotions take over. Anger, frustration, disappointment. All of these arise automatically because they have never trained themselves to think before they react. But why should we allow external events to have such control over our inner state? Why should we surrender our peace of mind to every inconvenience, insult, or unexpected challenge? The answer is simple: we should not. The mind is like a wild horse. If left unchecked, it runs in all directions, reacting instinctively to everything around it. But through discipline, we can train the mind to remain steady, focused, and under control. Just as an athlete strengthens their body through consistent practice, we must strengthen our mental resilience through conscious effort. This means deliberately choosing how we respond to situations rather than letting emotions dictate our behavior. One way to develop this control is through self-awareness. The next time you feel anger rising, do not act on it immediately. Pause. Observe the emotion without judgment. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Is this reaction necessary? By giving yourself even a few seconds to think, you break the automatic cycle of reaction and replace it with a deliberate response. Another powerful method is mental preparation. Expect that life will present you with difficulties and prepare yourself mentally in advance. If you know that people will be rude, that plans will fail, and that unexpected problems will arise, then when these things happen, they will not disturb you. Instead of reacting emotionally, you will see them as just another test of your discipline. A trained mind is not surprised by hardship. It remains calm and steady, no matter the circumstances. Imagine a soldier going into battle. If they have trained properly, they do not panic when danger appears. They do not freeze or act irrationally. They stay focused, disciplined, and in control. The same principle applies to everyday life. If you train your mind through discipline, you will not be easily shaken by external events. You will not be a prisoner to your emotions. Instead, you will act with clarity, wisdom, and composure. Some might argue that emotions are natural and should be expressed freely. This is true, but only to an extent. There is a difference between acknowledging emotions and being controlled by them. A disciplined mind does not suppress emotions, but processes them rationally. It recognizes anger without acting on it destructively. It acknowledges sadness without letting it turn into despair. It feels frustration without allowing it to dictate behavior. In this way, emotions become tools rather than chains. Discipline also means setting rules for yourself and sticking to them. If you know that reacting in anger leads to regret, then make a commitment to never speak or act while angry. If you know that complaining makes a situation worse, then train yourself to remain silent in the face of frustration. The more you practice these small acts of discipline, the stronger your mind becomes. Over time, you will find that things that once provoked you no longer have the same effect. Developing mental discipline requires patience. Just as physical strength is not built overnight, neither is emotional strength. But every moment of self-control, every time you choose reason over impulse, adds to your inner strength. Eventually, this strength becomes second nature. What once would have disturbed you now barely registers as an inconvenience. What once would have made you angry now simply passes without reaction. The greatest power a person can have is control over their own mind. When you master your thoughts, you master your emotions. When you master your emotions, you master your actions. And when you master your actions, you take full control of your life. No longer at the mercy of external forces, you become truly free. People often become frustrated, angry, or disappointed because they expect others to behave in a certain way, fairly, kindly, logically, but this expectation is flawed. Human nature is imperfect. People will be rude, selfish, inconsiderate, dishonest, and sometimes outright malicious. If you walk through life expecting otherwise, you set yourself up for constant frustration. The key to remaining unbothered is to expect these flaws in advance, so that when they appear, you are neither surprised nor disturbed. Imagine you are walking down a busy street and someone bumps into you without apologizing. If you assume that people should always be polite and mindful, you might feel offended. How could they be so rude, you might think. But why should their behavior surprise you? Have you not seen many people act rudely before? Why should today be any different? If you had expected that some people would be careless, their behavior would not have affected you at all. Instead of reacting with frustration, you would simply move on, unaffected. This mindset does not mean viewing others with bitterness or expecting the worst from everyone. Rather, it is an understanding that flaws are part of human nature. Just as a storm brings rain and fire gives off heat, people will sometimes act in ways that are selfish or inconsiderate. If you accept this as a natural part of life, you will no longer be shocked or angered by it. Consider how people react to bad weather. If a storm ruins your plans, you may be disappointed, but you do not take it personally. You do not think, "Why did the storm do this to me?" Because you understand that storms happen on their own, without concern for your schedule. Now, apply that same logic to human behavior. When someone acts rudely or unfairly, see it as just another storm, a natural occurrence that is outside your control. Do you get angry at the rain? No. So why get angry at people acting according to their nature? When someone insults you, deceives you, or acts unfairly, remind yourself, this is human nature. I knew this could happen. There is no reason to be surprised. This simple shift in thinking removes the emotional sting from the situation. You will find that many things that once bothered you now seem trivial. Many people waste their energy trying to change others, believing that if they argue enough, correct people enough, or demand fairness, the world will start behaving the way they want it to. This is an illusion. People change only when they choose to, not because you expect them to. The only person you truly have power over is yourself. If you waste time trying to control others, you will find yourself constantly frustrated. But if you focus only on controlling your own reactions, you will find peace. This does not mean you should accept mistreatment or allow others to walk over you. You can still set boundaries, make wise decisions, and remove harmful people from your life. But what you should not do is let their behavior disturb your peace. If someone cheats you in business, learn from it and move forward. If a friend betrays you, recognize it as part of life and adjust accordingly. But do not allow anger or resentment to consume you. Holding on to negative emotions only gives others control over your mind. Think about history's greatest leaders and philosophers. Did they waste their time being offended by every rude person they encountered? Did they dwell on every act of betrayal? No. They accepted human nature as it was, rather than as they wished it to be. They focused their energy on what they could control, themselves. Adopting this mindset does not make you cold or indifferent. It makes you wise. It allows you to navigate life without unnecessary emotional turmoil. It frees you from the constant disappointment that comes from expecting perfection in an imperfect world. The next time someone lies to you, betrays your trust, or acts selfishly, do not be surprised. Do not react with anger. Instead, remind yourself, this is human nature. I expected this. I remain unaffected. In doing so, you take control of your own mind and emotions. And when you control your mind, nothing and no one can ever truly disturb your peace. Comfort makes the mind weak, while hardship strengthens it. Many people go through life seeking ease, avoiding discomfort and running from challenges, yet they wonder why they are so easily frustrated, angered, or disturbed. The truth is, if you have never trained yourself to endure discomfort, even the smallest inconvenience will shake you. But if you deliberately expose yourself to hardship, You develop a mind that cannot be broken by external events. Most people are disturbed not because life is difficult, but because they are unprepared for difficulty. They have lived too comfortably, avoiding any kind of struggle, and as a result, even minor setbacks feel unbearable. They are like a body that has never exercised, weak, untrained, and easily fatigued. The solution is voluntary hardship, deliberately putting yourself through small difficulties so that when life presents real challenges, you are not shaken. Think of a soldier in training. They do not wait until war begins to learn how to fight. They train under harsh conditions, pushing themselves beyond their limits so that when the real test comes, they are prepared. In the same way, if you want to be unshaken by life's difficulties, you must train your mind through small acts of voluntary hardship. One way to do this is by practicing discomfort in everyday life. Take cold showers instead of warm ones, skip a meal occasionally, sleep without a blanket, walk instead of driving. These may seem like small things, but they train the mind to endure discomfort without complaint. If you can handle small hardships willingly, you will not be disturbed by greater ones that come unexpectedly. Another method is to practice patience in moments of irritation. If you are stuck in traffic, instead of letting frustration take over, use it as an opportunity to train yourself in endurance. If someone is rude to you, instead of reacting, see it as a test of your ability to remain calm. Treat every inconvenience as a training exercise. Over time, you will find that situations that once bothered you no longer have the same effect. Fasting is another powerful way to develop mental discipline. When you willingly deny yourself food for a period of time, you realize that hunger is not as unbearable as it seems. You learn that discomfort is temporary and that you have control over your impulses. This translates into other areas of life. When you face a stressful situation, you will remember that just as you endured hunger, you can endure any difficulty. Physical exertion also builds mental resilience. Push yourself beyond what is comfortable. Run farther than you think you can, lift heavier than you believe possible, or wake up earlier than you would like. When you develop physical toughness, mental toughness follows. A strong body and a strong mind are closely connected. Those who are physically weak often find themselves mentally weak as well, unable to withstand even the smallest hardships. The purpose of voluntary hardship is not to suffer needlessly, but to become stronger. Life will test you whether you are prepared or not. If you have never trained yourself to handle difficulty, life's challenges will overwhelm you. But if you have already put yourself through struggle, when hardship arrives, you will think, "I have faced worse than this, and I endured." This simple shift in mindset makes you unshakable. Many people complain about life's difficulties, but few prepare themselves for them. They want to be mentally strong without putting in the effort to build resilience. But strength, whether physical or mental, comes only through challenge. Just as muscles grow only when they are pushed beyond their limits, mental toughness grows only when you expose yourself to discomfort. The ancient warriors, philosophers, and leaders of history all understood this. They did not live in luxury, avoiding hardship. They trained themselves to endure difficulty so that when real challenges arose, they remained steady. They did not let external events disturb their peace because they had already trained their minds to handle discomfort. Imagine two men facing the same hardship. One has spent his life avoiding struggle, and the other has trained himself through voluntary hardship. The first man collapses under the weight of difficulty, feeling overwhelmed and helpless. The second man endures without complaint, thinking, "This is nothing compared to what I have already trained for." Which man do you want to be? If you want to be unbothered by life's difficulties, do not wait for hardship to arrive. Prepare for it now. Seek out small struggles. Make yourself uncomfortable on purpose. Do not avoid challenges. Embrace them. Over time, you will become unshakable. When others are complaining, you will remain calm. When others are breaking down, you will stand firm. And when life tests you, you will not be disturbed, because you have already trained for it. Nothing outside of you can truly harm you unless you allow it to. Words, insults, failures, betrayals, none of these have the power to disturb your inner peace unless you give them permission. It is not external events that trouble you, but your own judgments about them. If you strip away the opinions, assumptions, and unnecessary emotional reactions, what remains is something neutral, something that cannot affect you unless you decide otherwise. The ability to remain unshaken in the face of adversity is not a gift given to a few, it is a choice available to everyone. Imagine someone insults you. The words themselves are meaningless, just sounds in the air. But if you take them personally, if you interpret them as an attack on your identity, you allow yourself to be wounded. The insult itself has no power, it is your reaction that gives it weight. If you choose to see it as insignificant, it becomes insignificant. If you choose to ignore it, it ceases to exist as a problem. Consider failure. Many people are devastated by it, feeling ashamed or discouraged. But what is failure other than an event, a result of certain actions? It is not a permanent mark on your identity unless you decide it is. You can either interpret failure as proof of your inadequacy or as an opportunity to learn and grow. The event itself remains the same, only your perception changes its meaning. Betrayal is another example. If a friend deceives you, the act itself is done. It cannot be undone. But what remains in your control is your reaction. You can either let it consume you with anger and resentment, or you can see it for what it is, an event. A test of your ability to remain steady. If you let go of the emotional weight, the betrayal loses its power over you. Most people spend their lives reacting to everything around them, giving away their power to every situation, every insult, every inconvenience. They become like a ship tossed by the waves, controlled by external forces, rather than steering their own course. But those who understand that nothing can harm them unless they allow it, remain calm, no matter what happens. They choose how to interpret events, and in doing so, they choose how to feel. A great way to develop this mindset is to practice questioning your initial reactions. Whenever you feel disturbed by something, ask yourself, is this really harmful, or am I just interpreting it that way? More often than not, you will find that the event itself is neutral, and it is only your opinion that makes it seem negative. By changing your perspective, you take away the event's power over you. Another method is to create distance between yourself and the situation. Imagine you are watching your life as if it were a movie. Would an insult in a movie truly harm the main character? Would a small inconvenience ruin the entire story? When you step back and see things from a broader perspective, you realize how insignificant most problems truly are. Think of historical figures who remained unshaken despite immense challenges. They were imprisoned, exiled, insulted, and betrayed, yet they remained composed. Why? Because they understood that while others could take away their freedom, their possessions, or their reputation, they could never take away their control over their own minds. They refused to let external events dictate their inner peace. You can adopt the same mindset. The next time something threatens to disturb you, remind yourself, this is only as important as I decide it is. If you refuse to give it power, it has none. If you refuse to see it as harmful, it ceases to be harmful. This is true power, not the power to control others or external events, but the power to control yourself. Most people waste their energy fighting against things they cannot control, trying to change others, trying to rewrite the past. But the wise person focuses only on what is within their power, their thoughts, their actions, their mindset. When you master this, you become untouchable. No insult can wound you, no failure can break you, and no hardship can shake you. You remain steady, always in control, always at peace. Life will test you, people will provoke you, events will not go as planned. But none of these things have the power to disturb you unless you allow them to. When you understand this, you become truly free, not because the world changes, but because you no longer let the world control your mind.